Hey, what's up guys? So you guys asked for it, Asian Eyes always delivers, so we're going to be doing a deck profile and a budget version of Lightsworn that only uses 3 copies of the new structure deck that just came out 2 days ago, Lightsworn Sanctuaries. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump right into the deck profile. I'll explain the choices as we go along, and I'll briefly explain what some of these cards do because some of you players might be new to Lightsworn, you don't really know how the deck exactly works and a few of the little things that you can do in the deck. So let's get started. So first off, we have your boss monster, Judgment Dragon. He's the best card in the deck. One key thing to remember is you don't need to drop multiple Judgment Dragons on the same turn. Unless you're going to be able to finish them up, don't go ahead and drop 2 Judgment Dragons, attack for 6,000, only to lose to, a Dark Roll or something next turn. So Judgment Dragon is your win condition in the deck, basically. There are other ways you can technically win, but this is basically the card that you're going to be using to win. And like I said, a lot of newer players, they'll drop 2 Judgment Dragons all the time, and then they'll end their turn. Now, if you really need to, protect yourself from, life points, there are certain circumstances where, yes, going for multiple Judgment Dragons, you need that Necroguard in the graveyard, perhaps, just for whatever reason. Maybe your opponent can attack you directly with they're playing a Watch or something. Yes, I understand at that point, but majority of the time, do not summon multiple Judgment Dragons unless you're going to actually be able to go for game, because if they stop your play, next turn, basically, they clear out double Judgment Dragon, you need, unless you happen to have another Judgment Dragon, you're going to have something else that's on the same level as Judgment Dragon. There's very few things that this deck can actually do without a Judgment Dragon. But next up, we have 2 Celestia Lightsworn Angels. This card can be a dead card, but it's really powerful. It's almost like a mini Judgment Dragon. It's able to pop 2 cards and then send 4 cards on the top of your deck to the graveyard, which is actually really good. Unfortunately, it does not work with Geralth's effect. That'd be amazing if it did. It is a cost, so anything that's like a cost won't trigger Geralth's effect, which is kind of unfortunate. Otherwise, this card would be amazing. It would be on some next level stuff. But a really easy combo to pull off a Celestia is if you have a Lightsworn on your field, and let's say you mill during the end phase, meaning you send cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard. Let's say first turn you summon Raiden or you summon Lumina, and you're able to mill a Necroguard. And let's say your opponent attacks into you. You want to actually keep that Lightsworn alive if you happen to have Celestia, because Celestia is able to get rid of 2 cards, and it's up to 2, so that means if there's only 1, you can still pop 1, and you get to shave 4 cards, which can, mill wolves, it can mill other things that are really great into the deck to actually get into the graveyard. So she's really good. I only like 2 copies of her. If you really want to, you can bump her up to 3, or you can run some of these cards that we'll talk about a little bit later if you don't like some of the choices that I'm mentioning. But she's a really powerful card. She can be a win condition in itself when you mill multiple wolves. Next up, we're playing 3 Wolf Lightsworn Beast. He is a bad card technically to draw, but there are a lot of cards in this deck that make it so it's okay to draw Wolf. So one example would be something like Solar Recharge. You can get rid of that Wolf. Monster Incarnation, you can get rid of Wolf. Beckoning Light. There are a lot of other cards that you can just get rid of, and then therefore you won't have the Wolf in your hand. So when you draw Wolf, make sure when you activate your Solar Recharge, get rid of Wolf before you get rid of anything, even this card, because at least with this card, you can set it face down. But Wolf is a fantastic card. One really simple combo to get out Wolf, whether you need a beater or you need a monster for your Celestia Lightsworn Angel to go through with. You can just go ahead and activate Foolish Burial and then summon Wolf, then you can tribute Wolf for Celestia, and then bam, you're going to be able to get minimum 2 Lightsworns, because Celestia is also a Lightsworn, so if Celestia happens to die, you're going to have basically 2 Lightsworns guaranteed going into the graveyard unless Celestia survives, and you're going to be milling 4 more cards. So right there, you can maybe actually get real lucky and get 4 different Lightsworns, and then the Wolf is also one too. Next up, we play 1 Geralth. You can bump this card up to 2 if you really want to, like I said, if you want to make some changes, but this is going to be a very consistent and easy way to actually play the deck. So this card is really good in the deck. The optimal first turn, if you happen to get lucky, is to summon Illumina and then discard 1 card like a Necroguard or something like a Wolf, and then special summon Geralth from the graveyard, because Geralth is your draw power in the deck other than your Solar Recharges. It's just a fantastic card to have. So if you happen to have the option to go for a first turn Lumina Geralth play, it is fantastic. Heck, you can Lumina into Geralth and do some really crazy shenanigans. If you guys want to check out a sick replay, check down below in the description box. Basically, I forced myself to basically win in 1 turn Lightsworn, otherwise I would lose. It's just a really fun way to just draw like crazy, and it's just, Geralth can open up a lot of plays, but for the most part, he's just 18-15. He doesn't shape any cards on his own, so that is the downside to Geralth. If he milled 2 cards, that'd be awesome, but he does technically mill 2 cards, but you have to have another Lightsworn, so it's kind of like those 6 Samurais. You gotta have another one on board, otherwise the guy doesn't really do too much. Next up, just playing 1 Jane Lightsworn Paladin. This card's effect is that it gains 300 attack during the damage step only. back in the day when Blackwings were popular, this card was the killer of the Shuras, and it killed the Sirocco's basically, unless of course they had Kalute, but at one point Honest was also at 3 when Blackwings were popular. But it's just a decent card just to run over certain things, like sometimes Thunder King gets in the way. It's just a really easy card to get over some things. Also, Steel Swarm Roach, this card can run over that as well because it just becomes 2100 attack, then it mills 2. I just like it at 1. I don't think it's necessary to play more. This is really what makes Lightsworn so much better, is right in the Lightsworn Assailant, or right in Hand of the Lightsworn as they call it in here. But this card's just really, really good because not only is he a tuner, which lets you make Michael really easy in this deck, he's able to just shave 4 cards. No Lightsworn card other than Celestial will be able to send 4 cards, during that same turn. He sends 2 for his effect, and then during the end phase he sends another 2, which is really awesome with Garroth because you can tactically draw. I mean, if you get really lucky, you can actually draw 4 cards of Garroth, or heck, if this is here, you can draw even more. It's going to be crazy with Garroth. If you happen to have this card plus Garroth, very awesome stuff. But he's really good, like I said, just to make this card. All you need to do to actually pull this off is normal summon Lumina, activate her effect, as long as this card or another Lightsworn monster is in the graveyard. So Lumina technically has a legal target. You can go ahead and activate her effect and then bust out Raiden. And don't forget to activate Raiden's effect because you want to send in as many cards to the graveyard as possible. Heck, you might get a Wolf, you might get a Necro Gardener in there, you might be really lucky and get free extra advantage. So don't forget to activate his effect when you special summon him with Lumina. And then a really easy play is just to go straight into Michael, go ahead and pay 1,000, banish a card, and you're basically good to go. This card is really, really good in the deck as well. Next up, I just played 2 Lila. I think 2 Lila is a prime number. If you want, you can go ahead and play a little bit more than that. But Lila is just a great card just to get rid of back row before you go for your Big Daddy Judgment Dragon here. If you're playing this deck and they only have 1 back row, it's much safer to go Lila, activate effect, get rid of that 1 back row, rather than summon Judgment Dragon, blow up the field, then normal summon Lila. Yes, you are getting more damage. Certain times will call for that when you know you're going to be able to finish your opponent. Maybe you know that they have a dead draw that is in their back row and that it's not actually going to be someone. But play it safe if you want and go for this. But if, like I said, if you can finish the game, might as well try to go for it, right? Depending on your circumstance and what you think is going to happen. Maybe you're only at 200 life points. You got to win as quickly as possible because you don't want to lose to something like a Cowboy. So there are certain circumstances where it's much better to go Judgment Dragon, blow up, then go for this for the extra damage. Next up, I play 1 Zephyros because not only is he great just to bounce back stuff, I know there's no XYZs in this because, like I said, this is a budget version just for triple of the structure decks, but this card is just a good card in general just because not only does it let you get around stuff like Fiendish Chain and Breakthrough Skill or Effect Veiler, you can just go ahead and bounce that Judgment Dragon right back to your hand, summon that Judgment Dragon again, and then go for its effect again. And what's really cool with Zephyros is basically he's an extra 1,600 points of damage, so what you can do in this deck is go Judgment Dragon, activate its effect, let's say they stop it, even if they don't stop it, whatever, bounce it back to your hand with Zephyros, then you can re-special summon Judgment Dragon. Like, Compulsing Judgment Dragon does not do anything for him. He's just gonna come right back out. There's no, downsides. He's an inherent special summon anyways. But yeah, that's just really simple combo. Is just to get an extra 1,600 damage on board. Another thing you can do, because this is being special summoned, what you can do to inflict a lot of damage, and I got my handy dandy calculator over here, is let's say you summon Judgment Dragon and you blow up the field. At that time, you just have Judgment Dragon, so that's 3,000 points of damage that you can inflict to your opponent, and of course, you're blowing up everything, so you're going to be able to attack directly this turn. And then what you can do is you can bounce back Judgment Dragon to your hand, and then you'll take 400 points of damage, and then you'll have Zephyros on board, which actually has 1,600 attacks, so we can add 1,600 over here. And then what you can do is you can normal summon Lumina over here, and she's got 1,000 attacks, so let's say you summon her, and then what you can do is you can activate her effect, and then discard whatever card that you have in your hand, and then bring out another Lumina, which will give you another 1,000 points of damage, and then activate another Lumina's effect, and then basically bring out whatever you want, because if you don't have another Lumina, this won't actually work, because it won't be game, because you'd have 3,000 from Judgment Dragon, 1,600 from Zephyros, 1,000 from Lumina, and then you'll also have the highest monster that you can bring out would be 21. It's almost game, it's really close, but you'll just need a little bit more damage right there, so that's why you got to bring out another one for that. But just a really simple way to just basically OTK your opponent. And that's if they maybe didn't use Soul Charge or something like that, then, that you'll have to go for the extra one. But if they activate Soul Charge, just even one of them, then you'll be basically good to go with that little combo that I showed you. Next up, we're playing Aaron. Aaron's a really good card because against Fire and Ice Hand, like let's say they duality, they add Fire or Ice Hand, you can just send that thing right back to their deck. It's just really annoying for certain things to deal with. A lot of different decks can set cards, but I think 1 is just a really good number because sometimes you know that face down what that monster is. Maybe they have a Gotchi, a Zen main, so just send that thing back to the extra deck, or send it back to the deck is basically what it does. I really like her. I highly recommend you guys play 1. She comes in at the right moments a lot of times, and she can save you from losing to you know, Zen mains and stuff like that by paying a bunch of life points. But you also have this that can banish anything. Next up we have Honest. He's a really good card. When they attack, you activate Honest, you win. Another thing you can do is, let's say your opponent is going to attack you, you just activate Beckoning Light, add back Honest into your hand, therefore you just win because they already declared their attack, and the number of monsters on the field has not actually changed. Next, and also this is activated during damage step, just as a side note. Next up, triple Lumina. Lumina is just way too good in the deck, especially on this like budget variant. I would highly recommend you guys, I mean, if this is a budget variant, why not play 3 Lumina, because you're going to want to abuse this card as hard as possible, because this card is amazing. Another thing with Lumina is, if you happen to have a lot of cards in your hand, just start discarding cards that, you know, you can use in the graveyard. One excellent example would be something like DeevPro Gardener, or something like Wolf. Like, you don't need these cards. Maybe you want to go for a Lila, you can go ahead and pop a card. You can mill more cards during the end phase, which will technically help you get more cards for your Judgment Dragon, which is the key card. But keep in mind in Lightsworn that sometimes you can mill too much and you can actually deck yourself out, which is another way that some decks can actually beat you. But Lumina is just, she opens up so many plays. Basically, she can reinforcement of the army from that graveyard. Like, whatever you, it's even better than that. It's like reinforcement of whatever you want except for like Judgment Dragon or Celestia. Basically, she can bring you out anything that you really want, whether you need to attack over like a Thunder King or something, whether you want some extra mills in, whether you want some draw power, where you, even if you want some extra attack or something. Lumina is just there to grab whatever you want, and I really think that she's fantastic at 3. Then this card over here, I don't really like this card too much, I'll be honest, but I figured it was kind of better than the other choices. If you want, swap it in for the Light Rays, but I figured we'll have it a little bit more consistent. It's a pretty simple card to, you know, pull off. Very rarely will you use its effect. It's just able to get another card into the graveyard when you mill, and it's pretty awesome with Geralt. You can get some crazy draw power and with Geralt, but like I said, I really don't like this card, but if you want, you can totally drop this card. You can just run 1 if you want. You can drop it completely. I just didn't really find any other cards that were really good in the deck, and I just wanted more names, is what it comes down to, because I don't really like the Lightsworn Sanctuary card. I'd rather just play Monster Reincarnation. Next up, we play triple Necrogarnet. It blocks your attacks. Like I said, guys, remember, protect your Lightsworn monsters if you happen to have Celestia, because next turn, maybe you want to activate the effect of Lila. You can pop back row, then you go for Celestia, and then pop 2 more back row, and then you'll secure yourself from, you know, all of the back row. Then you can drop your Judgment Dragon, and then win from there. Next up, 3 Reiko, just to deal with like Ophion, just to deal with things that are just like in the way. Certain things like Steelstorm Roach can kind of wreck you sometimes. Reiko is just a fantastic card. There's not a time where I feel like Reiko is like a bad card. Plus, it makes stuff miss the timing, which is actually really nice. Lastly, we have, oh, not lastly, well, this is actually almost the end of the Lightsworn cards. Solar Recharge over here, just pretty self-explanatory. You discard 1 Lightsworn monster, you draw 2 cards, and you send the top 2 from the deck to the graveyard. Like I mentioned before, get rid of Wolf. This is the card that you want to get rid of. Never get rid of you know, anything else in your hand if you happen to have Wolf in your hand. You don't want Wolf. You cannot set Wolf. I'd much rather have this in my hand than Wolf. So, pretty self-explanatory. With Charge Light Brigade, there's actually, you know, basically everything except for Celestia in the deck that you can actually grab. This is just a fantastic card. Basically, you want to activate Charge Light Brigade. Let's say you happen to mill a Geralt. Go for Lumina. Always go for Lumina. Let's say you happen to mill Lumina. You can maybe go for... well, it doesn't really matter what you really go for. If you want to like get a lot of draw power, what you can do is you can, even if you mill Lumina, what you can do is you can grab another Lumina, and then you can Lumina, into another Lumina, into something else, and then you just put a whole bunch of stuff on board, and then just keep on milling and get a whole bunch of stuff. Perhaps during the end phase, if you happen to mill with Geralt, you get really lucky over there. Or just milling Necrogarnets can help, you know, put some pressure on your opponent to make it so they want to kind of like finish off the game, but you're going to say no to that anyways. And then we have 2 Monster Incarnation and then 2 Beckoning Light. These basically are the same card in one sense, because they're basically adding Judgment Dragons back to your hand. I figured I just went 2 and 2. Beckoning Light is just a more derpy card, but it's kind of more conditional. You will have to get rid of everything in your hand, and sometimes you don't want to get rid of stuff. So just go ahead and set them in the back row. But sometimes setting them in the back row is not the best idea. Like setting cards like Solar Recharge is not the best idea, because, you know, when you have no back row in your deck already, other than like Breakthrough Skill, more than likely your opponent is just going to MST the stuff, because they think it's going to be Royal Decree, which is a fantastic card in this deck. But like I said, since this budget with triple the structure decks only, kind of limited to, you know, the structure decks. But yeah, this is just a fantastic card. Usually you want to discard Wolf most of the time, but if you have Necrogardna, always discard Necrogardna over Wolf if you happen to have the option. It'll just help you out. Unless, of course, you're going for names or something like that. Monster Incarnation, fantastic to get an extra name into the graveyard, perhaps, or just getting Judgment Dragon back to your hand so you can summon it. Beckoning Light, they basically, like I said, they're kind of similar in one way. With Beckoning Light, you get to get rid of all the cards in your hand. Then you add the same number of light monsters from your graveyard to your hand, so adding back usually what you want to add back is the Judgment Dragons. As long as you can summon it, of course. Or you can add a Lumina back. Lumina opens up combos, you know, Lumina into more Luminas, or Lumina into Raiden, into Millmore, into make this card, which is a fantastic card. Yeah, just Beckoning Light is just a fantastic thing to kind of basically change what you have in your hand. If you happen to have a really bad hand, it helps out a lot sometimes. Foolish Burial, you usually get one extra name, but most of the time it's for Wolf. And then lastly, we have 2 Breakthrough Skills, which is basically the best reprint in this entire set, I would say. But pretty self-explanatory for the extra deck. You only have Michael the Lightsworn Arc, so of course playing triple 11. This card's a fantastic card. You can just go ahead and re-heal up. It kind of prevents you from decking out. There are some times where your opponent activates like Battle Faders and stuff like that. Star Eater is fantastic against you know, all those other things like Swift Scarecrow, you know, all the random stuff that you could maybe deck out against. I'm pretty sure, yeah, if you activate Swift Scarecrow on Star Eater, not that you have it in here, you can still get the attack in, so it's all good. But just random stuff that stops you from like winning, and like sometimes you'll mill too many cards. Go ahead and summon this card, then summon Judgment Dragon, then go ahead and blow up this card, because this card's effect is when this card is destroyed, you can target any number of other Lightsworn monsters in your graveyard and then put them back to the deck, and then you heal up. So you can heal up and then you can reset your stuff so you don't actually deck yourself out. And lastly, for the other cards that I just wanted to kind of talk about briefly, highly recommend you if you don't want to play like this card, for example. Like I said, I really didn't like this card too much. You can go ahead and play like another Breakthrough Skill if you want. Breakthrough Skill is a fantastic card. But there's the new card, Lightsworn Sanctuary, which I feel like wasn't that great, and a lot of you guys agreed with me too when I made a discussion video on this. I just don't think this card is great because it has like the same like effect almost as Monster Incarnation, but it doesn't let you add Judgment Dragon, which is the card that you want to add back anyways in this entire deck, and the whole point of the deck is basically Judgment Dragon anyways, so I really felt like this card wasn't too useful. And also with Judgment Dragon blowing up the entire field, just remove too many counters off of this. And I like how it has the effect, if a Lightsworn card would be destroyed by a card effect, which doesn't really happen because all of the Lightsworn monsters have like small attack that you're just going to be able to normal summon, and if you're sacking them really hard, then you're sacking them really hard anyways. But this card, it doesn't really look as good to me, and like I said, you guys agreed with me when I made my discussion video. Anyways, there's also the Light Rays. You can opt to play them, but I figured like when you milled them, they don't really do anything. I tried to make the deck so whatever you milled was actually going to be really, really great, so that therefore I don't really feel like these cards were too great, but they're great side deck cards in general. If something has a field spell, this card, oh my gosh, it'll make people cry if you throw this out against decks that happen to have field spells. There's also this card that has a mediocre effect, but for the most part, Judgment Dragon to win condition, I wanted to keep him the boss monster, and sometimes, I mean, the summoning conditions are basically the same as Judgment Dragon anyways, and you're just going to have more inconsistent hands if you open it with like multiple Judgment Dragons, Wolves, and then you got multiple of these. But if you want, I highly recommend you guys to maybe try one of them. If you guys wondering which one do I like better, I personally like Light Ray Daedalus better because his effect to special summon itself is that you have to have 4 or more light monsters in your graveyard. Light Ray Diablos has to have 5 or more light monsters with different names, so it's kind of like Judgment Dragon. They gotta have different names. Light Ray Diablos doesn't care. Plus, this card against field spells is really, really good. I mean, the attack of this is just a little bit more, but it's not like huge to the point where I think it makes a huge difference in the game. But Daedalus is not bad, like I said, against decks that have field spells. There's also Fabled Raven. I mean, you could technically use it if you happen to have another like full set of accurately got starters and stuff. Maybe you could throw in one of these. I think Plug Spreaders is a much fantastic. It's a much better card in general. But like I said, since this is only using the structure decks, we don't have Plug Spreader. But if you happen to have one, I recommend this over Fabled Raven. You can drop maybe even this. Like I said, I don't really like this card, but there's kind of limited room, so I was like, well, we'll put that in there as a placeholder for like maybe something else. Maybe even an MST. I mean, I would assume most of you guys have an MST. If you don't have one, if you ever see me, I'll hook you up with MSTs or some other comments, because you could definitely use like an MST. There's also Arcus Lightsworn Druid. What's kind of cool with this effect is Lightsworn monsters, and it says everywhere cannot be targeted by spell traps or card effects. He doesn't have too much attack. He's got decent defense. He was used a long time ago against Gladiator Beasts. Like, this guy was annoying against Gladiator Beasts because you set it face down, and then they'd have to tag out for Laquari, and then next turn try to run over it. But basically, this card, it's got 1800 defense, and they can't target it. It just got annoying for some decks, but for the most part, he's kind of outdated, and if you're going to set anything, it might as well be a Reiko, in my opinion. But there's also this card, Glorious Illusion. Now, this card, it's really not too bad. I mean, I think it's bad in the sense if you happen to have all these cards, and maybe if you happen to have like MSCs and stuff. But the thing is, if you're really limited on what you're playing, like I said, drop this card completely. Like I said, if you want, drop this card. Glorious Illusion is really not too bad in one sense, because if we're going by only the structure deck, because being able to get back a Lila and then popping something and then going for Celestia and popping more cards is always a decent effect. You do mill 2 cards, but I mean, it's basically like Call of the Hunt for Lightsworns. Although you can only target Lightsworn monsters, but it's not a bad card if you're only using the stuff out of the structure deck, like I mentioned before. But that's going to be it for the deck profile, guys. If you have any suggestions for other players that are interested in playing this deck or any other combos, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. But anyways, good luck having some fun with this deck, guys. And I wanted to mention really quick with this deck, sometimes you will have bad hands. It happens. That is part of what Lightsworn does. It is kind of a, I guess you could say, high risk, high reward, although the risk is kind of more based off of, chance, because you don't know what you're going to mill off of your soul recharge. Sometimes you mill really good, and sometimes you mill completely awful. But sometimes you can mill crazy and just deck yourself out. Or you could be awesome like me and do this really stupid thing where you try to deck yourself out and then you win anyways. If you guys want to check out this video, highly recommend you check it in the description box because it's absolutely hilarious and it'll kind of show you how fast Lightsworn can be at certain times. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day. Asian Eyes out.